Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Luminous Sessions with your host, me, Harriet. Today, we are joined by Christine, and Christine is an ERYT 500 yoga teacher and the founder of Badlands Yoga, which she's owned in some form since 2005, though she's been practicing since 1971. Before teaching yoga full-time, she studied philosophy, then spent years as a paramedic and educator in EMS. That background, presence under pressure, deep attention to the body, a habit of asking hard questions, runs through everything she does. She writes the Substack Sovereign Practice and is finishing her self-published planner, Bring Your Yoga Home, which helps people build a sustainable personal practice outside the classroom. She's here today to talk about growing a wellness practice that lasts. So, Christine, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much, Harriet. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm excited to have this conversation with you if the internet holds out. So I have to ask Christine, the name Badlands Yoga, where did that come from?
So here in New Mexico, we have a distinctive geologic feature. My microphone fell, pardon me for a second, called Badlands. And they feel like the bones of the earth. They're volcanic, long ago geologic historic formation. It feels like going into the bones of the earth. And I used to take week-long retreats alone, going there, meditating and doing yoga. And so it was kind of where my practice really took root and deepened. And it's the feeling that I want to bring when I teach yoga.
Amazing. And then I asked this question to a guy we spoke to the other day for our first episode, but how did you get into obviously starting yoga and then taking that forward as a full-time business? How did we get there? Was it like a thing growing up, or I'm so interested to know things like this.
Oh, I love the question. So my first, and I don't usually bring this into interviews, but I was born with birth defects of my hips, knees, and legs and feet. And so I was in these casts. And I have this very distinctive memory after the casts came off. Here in the US, there used to be a woman named Lilius who did yoga on PBS every morning. And my mother was doing it. And it's one of those like feeling sensory impression memories of being able to do down dog underneath my mom. Of course, I didn't know it was down dog at the time, right? But getting under there and mimicking her and just like the absolute freedom of being able to do that. And so I can't say that I had any kind of sustained practice from that point forward.
Yeah.
I was maybe 4 at the time. But I did practice in some form, in books, right? In the 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early aughts. By that time I was living in New Mexico, there wasn't a yoga studio in every corner, right?
Yeah.
They just didn't exist. If there was yoga, it was at a gym, or it was like the weird lady in the house at the end of the lane kind of thing, right? And so I did stuff out of books and then I became a teacher. I'd made medic and I felt confident enough in my career in EMS that I wanted to turn my sights to stress relief and like, okay, how do I balance this out? And so I took a yoga teacher training. It was one of the very first yoga teacher trainings back in the early 2000s. And it was purely for me, right? I worked weekend nights and the trainings, of course, were on Saturday and Sunday days. So I was exhausted. I would occasionally fall asleep. And it was all for me. And then my teacher asked me to sub for her, and that was fun. So I did it. And by 2005, I was teaching enough on my off days that I was getting paid. So you need to start a business to report taxes and stuff. And so that happened. And then it became big enough that by 2015 is when I went full time. And it was a decision. It was like, I love this career in EMS. I love educating. I love teaching. And I, I love teaching yoga.
Yeah.
And this is now big enough. I'm going to have to choose.
Yeah.
And, so I chose my yoga business, and one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Good. Like they always say, you never work a day in your life if you love what you're doing. I love that journey.
Right?
Yes, I love it. I love it. So you touched on it a second ago about a saturated, especially now, like you've said, there's yoga, Pilates, everything on every corner in England. Everybody's obsessed with it now. I feel like everyone's so obsessed with their health and well-being and wellness. So in the competitive wellness landscape, what's been one specific actionable strategy or system that you've put in place at Badlands Yoga that has been instrumental in driving significant growth, whether that's like a membership, a class attendance, expanding your offerings? What have you found that you've used that you've gone, aha, this is it?
So it was really, and I want to say, I was trying to remember earlier this morning when I started this. It was maybe 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. I switched to a subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a game changer for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just being terrified to do it at first, right? Like, it was, not everybody was doing it back then, but it stabilized my baseline income. And I had hoped it would do this, but it did it in ways that I hadn't thought of. They felt invested in their practice more,
Yeah.
right? I called them members, and so they felt like members.
Mm-hmm.
They had paid flat rate and they could come once that month, or they could come to every class I taught.
Yeah.
And I did not think they would. Many of them came to every class I taught. And yeah, it was one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah. That's so right. You've said that because me and my partner do Reformer Pilates, and it's on a membership subscription, and we've paid now. We have to go. So I think it's such a beneficial thing for a company to have.
And I think helping people commit to their self-care practices is one of the greatest services that we can do.
Yeah. Love it. So every entrepreneurial journey has its make or break moments. Can you recall a specific time at Badlands Yoga where things didn't go as planned? So perhaps a financial setback, staffing issues, low attendance.
I can think of so many times. I mean, in the early days, not so much, because it was my passion project. It was, I taught a few classes on the side kind of thing. You know what? I hate to bring it up, but the pandemic was huge. And it was so by this point, I've had some of my customers, some of my clients for, a decade.
Mm-hmm.
How do I support them through this thing where all of the certainty has just been washed out, right? And different people have different reactions. Some people are like, oh, you mean I don't have to leave my house? Okay. And other people are like, oh my God, I can't do the things that make me feel like me. How do I support all of these people? And we had made so many decisions before that supported us during that time. And one is that we're a debt-free company. I have never, and so it was easier for me, right? Because I had a career as a paramedic, and I started this thing. And so there was never a reason for me to take out a loan or buy into all of the, oh, you've got to take loans in order to grow your business. I was able to let it happen naturally. But by that point, this was my whole thing. It was my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not having that burden was huge. I had gone online on Skype back in 2010. We did a temporary relocation for my partner's job, and I had clients. I referred them to other, like, this is a good place, and you would love this person. And they were like, but we want to do it with you.
Yeah.
And so those clients I attended on Skype. And so I had learned, little things about how do you set up the camera. So, and how do you see if someone's form is serving them well
Mm-hmm.
through a camera, through 2D, right? Um, so those things served us very well. Um, Trying to think of other times.
I think that's a big enough
Yeah.
time. Anything to do with COVID, I feel like I always forget it happens when I'm talking to people like yourselves and they say about these struggles they have at this time. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot it even happened. It feels like a fever dream.
Yes, it feels
Right.
like a bit of a different life. Yeah.
Completely different. Excuse me. So beyond your traditional yoga classes, does Badlands Yoga offer anything different, unique, or workshops or retreats that kind of set you apart from, again, the oversaturated wellness industry that already exists?
That's changing for me. In fact, this last year I closed my physical studio. Um, I was slow to do that, and I was very proud that we were one of the, and pride goeth before the fall, right? I was very proud that we were one of the physical yoga studios in our city that made it through the pandemic.
Mhm.
And I was able to reopen, same location, like just pick right back up. And you know what? We had been meeting on Zoom every day for so long that many of my people who lived in that city stayed on Zoom. And
Really?
yeah, well, and one of the things that happened, and I hadn't thought about this until now, I now can teach yoga at 6:30 and 7 in the morning, and people will actually come to those classes.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
trying to do that forever because I think it's such like that's my favorite time, right? It sets the tone for the day. But if you're going to a studio, you have to pack your clothes bag and you have to have all the shoes and all the food and all, right? All the things. If you can do it here at home, you can do it in your jammies and then roll upstairs and get ready for your day. And it was a total game changer. And I only closed the studio about a year ago. Um, and so I'm retooling the things that made a huge difference before the last couple of years were my in-person retreats,
Mhm.
partnering with, um, I tried different locations and I found a location where our vibe was very, uh, simpatico. Like we really synced. And us each having access to each other's mailing list was genius.
Mhm.
People got used to me being there. People got used to I would do a retreat the first weekend of March every year. And those people then would sometimes become private clients or do my online workshop. Um, and that was really one of the services that fed things. Corporate partnerships.
Mhm.
I've had one was actually with the United States Forest Service, which is government, not corporate, but it was a workplace, right?
Yeah.
And a friend who I knew from something else, she wanted, and it happened at the other place too. I had a client who wanted to be able to knock off work, go down to their workout space, have a yoga class, and then go home, right?
Yeah.
Because again, that's another, I think it all comes down to finding out where people's pain points are and solving them, right? If someone goes home from work, They take the long drive home. They get home. Their dog greets them. Their partner greets them. They're less likely to leave the house again.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can do it right there at work and then go home, they become remarkably regular. Or
Yeah.
if they can do it over their lunch hour. And so those were really big. These days, it's my online workshops
Mm-hmm.
and partnerships with, um, well, really one partnership right now with Blue Feather. It's a huge, they sell crystals and stones, but they also host events and all of that kind of stuff. So I think those are the two. I guess the thread that runs through it is partnerships.
Amazing. And then so with your with Badlands, how do you attract new customers? Obviously, you've already got such an incredibly well established audience of people that come. How do you, and aside from the partnerships, is there any other way you reach out to people or would like to reach out to people or think, oh, maybe we could do this? Or is it pretty much seamless?
Um, well, nothing's ever seamless all the time, right? Um, and I'm always experimenting, right? I'm a big believer in trying like one new thing. What am I gonna just experiment
Hmm.
with 10% of my time? Um, and so I've occasionally used networking sites
Hmm.
to make connections with other people in the healing arts, um, and then use those coffee calls that you have to establish whether I think we'd be a good fit for an online workshop. And that's my best. That's been the most reliable way. And then again, we introduce ourselves to one another. We each do something slightly different. Therapists, shamans. Um, I stay away from partnerships where they're selling a product
Hmm.
just because of my base. Um, that and my newsletter list.
Yeah.
Um, and YouTube is very helpful for feeding the newsletter list. Um, and I social media in general takes so much time. Um, I've recently just given up on some of the more uh, usual platforms, but the video format allows me to both talk about really the main differentiator for what I do is that I encourage people to play on their own. Like, I don't want you to only come to classes.
Yeah.
I would rather see you twice a week or even once a week and have you go home and roll out your mat all of the other mornings for 15 minutes and be like, oh, how does dancer pose work? You know?
Yeah.
And so those have been the things that have brought me clients.
Amazing. So on that, so what is your philosophy on client experience at Badlands Yoga and what specific steps do you take to ensure that every client feels valued and connected?
Mm. Um, so I practice out of the tradition from which yoga therapy was born.
Hmm.
And so I already limit class size to 8 people at a time, max. Um, for certain experiences, like a yoga nidra experience where there's not a lot of physical challenge, I'll go to 15. But I keep my class size small, and that was a liability at first when they weren't packed, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I got through that, and that allows me. And then when I had the physical studio, I trained apprentices. It allows them to give their full attention for that 75 minutes that you're together outside of that, running things on a subscription model has allowed me to automate some of the information collection.
Mm-hmm.
And so little things like clients getting happy birthday. And I'm not sure if we're still recording, but I'm going to keep talking.
I think we are.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
If they get a happy birthday, and I usually include like a code for 10% off your next uh, retreat or workshop purchase, something like that, or um, a 15-minute coffee conversation, right? Yeah, I try to change it up. If they receive something like that, even though it's automated, at first I thought, oh, it's automated, it's not that important. It matters though. And just those little tiny touches, they don't have, the other thing I figured out is like, it doesn't have to be, you know, I'm sure it would be lovely if it were like an explosion of fireworks on their computer screen, right? But just a heartfelt, hey, happy yoga day. It's your day. I hope, I hope it's great. Um, it really goes a long way.
Yeah.
Um, and we do personal check-ins at the beginning of every class. So there's, particularly now that most of my interactions are online,
Mm-hmm.
people gather a little bit early for class. Not all of them. There are some people who just, they want to get in and get out, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I open the room a little bit early and we check in, right? So what's going on today? What's the weather like where you are? Because I have people all over the United States and in the Yukon sharing that. People sometimes share really deep things that are happening for them. I lost this person today, right? And then they get to be witnessed by people that they see all the time. Um, and those things matter to
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you've touched on automation. Obviously, we're in a world now of your AI, your chat GPTs. I have to ask, is there anything you currently use at the moment, or is there anything you have in your workload when you were starting your business in your day to day that you wish, oh, I wish I could, something could do this for me? Is there anything that kind of really pulls you back and makes your day longer almost when it doesn't need to be, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So I think what you're asking is there a place that's not currently automated that I wish I could automate?
Yeah.
That's a really good, some, so this is a razor's edge for me.
Hmm.
I'm a writer at heart. And so and a huge part of what I encourage people to do is have an authentic practice, right? One of the things I tell people is when you come to a class, you you are experiencing my practice. I'm tailoring it for you, but I want you to go home and experience your authentic practice. And so since that's a big part of my teaching, I struggle with automating my writing. Um, and things like newsletters take a lot of time. Um, and honestly, some of the ideation process, I hadn't really, so if I had something that could look at what I'm currently offering, what people are responding to, and I guess I would have to run a bunch of things through it, but and say, hey, the next thing you should offer is y- yoga for healthy aging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that would take a lot of the friction out of my life. Like, okay, I can create that workshop I can create the outline in 20 minutes, right? It's the time that I spend like, oh, should it be this? Should it be that? I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah. No, very helpful. Sorry. Yeah, really helpful. I think it's good for obviously our side of it. Obviously, this podcast is sponsored by Luminate AI, and we just really want to get an idea of how different businesses around the world are using it, thinking of using it, would love to be able to use it. So that's a perfect insight. So thank you so much. So moving on, where do you want Badlands Yoga to be in 5 years' time?
Ah, this is a question that I have spent a lot of a lot of space with um, in the last few months. I really want it to mature into a community of people who practice on their own. So here's what I think yoga is. I think yoga started with a bunch of people who either took or had the leisure to spend a lot of time experimenting with their bodies. What happens when I breathe this way? How does it affect my mental state when I pause at the end of an inhale, right? What happens if I do it really forcefully? What happens if I do it really gently? What happens if I put my foot up here? Happens if I put my foot back here?
Mhm.
And then they went and they saw a teacher every so often, right? And the teacher said, I see what you're trying to do there. Try it this way, right?
Yeah.
Oh, please stop doing that. You're going to hurt yourself if you do that very much. Um, that's the direction that I see Badlands Yoga going in. Doesn't mean that I won't continue doing group classes. I really love the group classes. Um, and that's where I see people, my clients, whether they're private clients, whether they're group clients, whether they're retreat clients, workshop clients, the people who take what we do together and then they experiment with it. And then they come back and sort of check in like, okay, either, hey, I've been doing this and I feel like I've mastered it. What's the next? What do you think the next thing is for me? Or I'm doing this and it's not feeling right. What, like, how should I adjust that? Though that's where I see literal magic, literal miracles happening in people's lives and bodies. And so that's the experience that I want to foster.
Amazing. Incredible. So we are getting quite close to the end of the episode. So I've got one more big question. Then I've got four very quick fires. Then we can do a little bit about where people can find your planner, a bit about your social media. So before we do that, so for an entrepreneur that's listening today, perhaps someone dreaming of opening their own unique wellness business, what's the single most valuable piece of advice you could give them based on your journey with Badlands Yoga, especially regarding navigating inevitable ups and downs?
Mm. This isn't super original, but it's plan your business and your personal schedule, um, not for your best day. Right. I think this is the thing that I think I did over and over again. Right. You sit down to plan for a quarter and you're like, oh, I'm going to spend 5 hours a week on this and 3 hours a week on this. And I'm going to do this in an hour a week. And right. And you fill up 40 or 50 hours and you're like, yes, that's going to be an awesome quarter. And then life happens. And once you've attached yourself to all of those things, it can feel really overwhelming to figure out what to give up,
Yeah.
right? When the partner gets sick, the kid gets sick, the dog runs away, and you have to go look for the dog. Last year, I lost a dear family member, and it was important to me to spend time with them, which meant being in a different city. Um, And I was so grateful that I had a business that I could sustain to some level, right? Um, plan plan for your medium days. Don't necessarily plan for your, your down days. Plan for your medium days and plan and make it yours. I think that's the most important thing. That's how you're going to maintain motivation. It's how you're going to differentiate yourself. It's going to make your marketing easier, right? And treat marketing as teaching. Um, it's less selling, it's more teaching. And if you teach people what you do and why it's important, and you open it up, like maybe you come to me, maybe you go to somebody else. It's a service to the world, and the people that resonate with you are going to come, and the ones that don't resonate, you didn't want. They need to go find somebody else, right?
Love that.
It is a saturated market.
Yeah.
Use it to your
Plan for your
advantage.
medium days. I love that. That's such a good piece of advice. I love it. So, quick fire round. Are we ready?
Okay. Yes.
4 very quick questions. So, question number 1. One yoga pose that best describes your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, wow. Warrior 3.
Love it. Don't know what it is, but I love it. I love the name. Question 2. Your favorite aspect of the Badlands environment that you've created.
Oh, wow. The connections between my clients, the way that they ask about each other, the way that they form relationships outside, um, and uh, the everyday miracles that I get to see.
Amazing. Question 3. One book or resource that profoundly impacted your business mindset.
It is so dry. I don't know if anybody really would want it. It's the 12-week year.
Okay.
Yeah, the 12-week year.
12-week year. And then finally, if you could instantly solve one problem in the wellness industry, what would it be?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Um, the understanding that a workout is never about one aspect of your life. It's the understanding of the people coming and the people who foster it, who do the marketing. Um, Wellness isn't about your muscles, and it's not just about your bones, and it's also not just about your heart, and it's not just about your mind. It's about how all of those things come together um, in your felt sense of your body. Um, yeah, I think that would be revolutionary.
Amazing. So that is the end of our questions today for our podcast. Now, I did say earlier you have your Bring Your Yoga Home planner coming out. Where can
Yes.
people find it? When is it coming out? Tell us a bit about it.
So this is my signature workshop used to be called the Home Yoga Practice Workshop. Um, and it teaches people how to just roll out their mat and start practicing. It gives you a framework, and this is the culmination of 20 years of work in that with people and on that workshop. And it'll be partially a workbook, um, and then a weekly and a daily sheet that help you choose what postures, what techniques, what breathing practices, what imagery practices you're going to practice for 15 or more. I have clients who have an hour-long yoga practice. Not everybody has that space. A day, and it gives you sort of this structure and framework for checking in a very supported way. And I will be uh, publishing it on KDP, so it'll be available on Amazon by the end of June. Bring
Amazing.
your yoga home.
Congratulations. So that was Bring Your Yoga Home, available on Amazon at the end of June. Now, you did mention something else, but I don't want to mess it up. What's the Substack?
So I'm just starting this. I had been writing over on Medium, and people can find some of my writing about home yoga practice and also Ayurvedic lifestyle practice on Medium. And I write also on my blog. I have recently started a Substack called Sovereign Practice. And it's this idea that you are your own guru. Uh, yoga postures are questions. This is actually Judith Hanson Lassiter is the famous person who says this. Yoga postures are questions, and your body has a language, and it's sensation and movement. It's going to tell you things in sensory and movements, and you can respond to it in the same. Um, and doing that is really where the yoga happens. And so the Substack is a place where I write about the experience of having a sovereign practice and encourage and support people in having their own.
Amazing. So underneath this episode, where on Spotify and YouTube, there will be links where everybody can find you, where they'll be able to find anything about you. So don't worry about that. I'll make sure that's all in the show notes for you. But that is the end of our episode today. I cannot thank you enough for coming on to Luminous Sessions today. It's been an incredibly insightful episode. A huge thank you again to our guest, Christine from Badlands Yoga. So if you found today's conversation inspiring or you gained a new strategy, please take a moment to share this episode with another entrepreneur who you think needs to hear it. Your referrals help us reach more leaders and build this community. And of course, a massive thank you to our sponsor, Lumina AI, your AI engine for unstoppable growth. If you're ready to guarantee 10 qualified sales appointments for your business every month, visit www.goluminaai.net today. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next conversation. And until then, keep leading, keep growing, and we'll catch you next time. Christine, thank you so much. And I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, Harriet. This has been one of the most enjoyable interviews I've ever done. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Please, thank you so much.